What's up, everybody? This is Miles Turner, the Indiana Pacers. You're listening to the Paceroos Podcast. Be sure to follow @Paceroos on Twitter.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Paceroos Podcast, the only Aussie NBA podcast with a bias towards the Indiana Pacers, live together for the first time in a little while, not via Skype. Adam, Alex, and Justin are with you to review the last three Pacers games. And Alex, you and I were met up for an episode midweek, and we said we'd be happy with 2-1, and that's what we got.
Yeah, very excited. Obviously, good to have Justin back after buying the team. After that TJ Leaf bet went well for him, but yeah, good to be back. 2-1, we'll take it. Probably we'll talk a little bit about that Charlotte game, but outside of that, it was a good trip for the boys.
And Justin, you're going to give us the review of the Wizards game, and I believe that it's only going to revolve around how good Aaron Holiday looked. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, he was very good. Glad to be back as well, guys. I thought I'd do what half the Pacers players are doing and missing out on their work. So, yeah, glad to be back. But, yeah, 2-1 from the last three games, which we all said we would have taken. So, yeah, excited to jump in.
Cool. So we'll review the last three games in order of how they happened. We'll start with the game at Charlotte that we lost in overtime, 122-120. Best players for Charlotte were Scott Foster, Mark Lindsay, and Justin Van Dyne. No, we're not into bagging refs on the Paceroos podcast, but we do have to speak about the free throw disparity. 42 free throw attempts for Charlotte and just 7 for the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers haven't done a great job of getting to the line, and they have fouled a little too much to begin with, but that was the highest free throw disparity between two teams in 3 years. Now, stats for Charlotte, Devontae Graham had 35 points. 6 assists. Terry Rozier had 22 points. So the backcourt for Charlotte really carved us up.
Will Chamberlain played pretty well as well.
Yeah. Bismack Biyombo turns into Wilt Chamberlain whenever he plays the Pacers. TJ Warren top scored for Indy with 33 points. Malcolm Brogdon had 31 points and 8 assists. Goga got the start, had 11 rebounds and 4 blocks in what was a pretty good performance, although a few too many fouls. He did foul out before the end of the game. Justin, how did you see the Hornets game? It was a tough loss, especially with all the injuries the Pacers were carrying.
Yeah, very frustrating. That's probably the key word to sum that up. I swear we never win in Charlotte. I mentioned that to you guys. We just never win in Charlotte. I don't know what it is. Kemba used to torch us, and we should have won that game. We're up 14, I think, heading into the fourth, or double-digit lead anyway. And yeah, should have won that game. Shouldn't have gone to overtime, and then we should have won in overtime. I will say, we know our injury list is growing. Half our team's out, and then you've got Goga fouling out. You've got TJ Leaf fouling out. So we're down to probably our 8th best player on the court, really. So, yeah, extremely frustrating. Obviously, I didn't agree with that last call from the referee. Even if that was a Pacers player shooting free throws for the win, I don't agree with someone trying to bail out on a game winner. He had nowhere to shoot. Yeah, Sampson probably leaned in a bit, but when a shooter makes the contact, the referees are advised that's not a foul. He leaned into Sampson. I don't know why that was called a foul, and then the NBA reviewed it and said it was a correct call. I think they're getting a bit too embarrassed about having these 2-minute reviews saying how many wrong calls they made. There's also a Goga screen they confirmed, which was incorrect. That was disgusting. But yeah, look, it was a tough game. Very frustrating.
Yeah, when you look at the bench disparity, I mean, 59 bench points to 25 really sticks out. I mean, obviously the majority of that came from Devontae Graham with 35 points and Bismack Biyombo with 15. He was 6 for 7 for the field and really only played right at the end of the game and torched us. So the bench once again was really not ideal in their performance. But then again, when you've got a starting front court of Goga and Jakar Sampson, your bench is always going to be pretty thin. We saw Aaron Holiday play minutes at the backup 4. We saw Doug McDermott play minutes at the backup 4, and obviously TJ Leaf had to come off the bench, and both of our centre and our de facto backup centre both fouled out, which was a big problem. So overall, I think it's another sort of disappointing bench performance, and I think that's probably what got us the loss as much as anything.
Yeah, I think it was more of what we've seen from the beginning of the season, not so much the last few games. So they were back to their old ways, which was really disappointing. But, as Justin mentioned, that last 2-minute report, I mean, I think we're pretty lucky we're not recording that right after that game because we would probably be a lot more frustrated than this. But I think that was just ridiculous. You guys know that as Pacers fans. We all knew that wasn't a foul. I think even the Fox Sports Indiana Twitter account tweeted out something. They might get a message from the league about that one. I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
even our friends, the sideline guys, Jeremiah Johnson and Pat Boylan, took issue with the officiating. And you know, as I said, we're not into bagging out the officials. We can only point out the facts, and the facts were that it was the largest free throw disparity in 3 years.
Yeah,
so there's
not good at all.
Yeah, not a great performance. But then again, our bench didn't perform either. So you know,
we had chances to win that game. The refs were bad, but we had our chances. And unfortunately, it's one of those things. I honestly think sometimes the referees are like, bugger, I want to go home. Like, it's gone to overtime. It's a tie. It's about to go to 2 overtimes, and you get a 3-second late whistle after a shot. It's literally like he's going, I cannot be bothered. I want to go home.
I'm going to miss my flight out of Charlotte.
I don't want to be stuck in Charlotte overnight. Get out of here, man.
Yeah. Shouts to Charlotte. I'm sure it's not that bad of a city. It was a different story in the second game. We were able to overcome Washington 121-106. I think, Justin, that's your game. You want to give us some key performances and stats from that game?
Holiday season.
Yeah, I'll take the brunt for this one. Very happy. Aaron Holiday had the game of his season, which is good. Obviously, he was in the starting lineup, 18 points. He actually shot well, 7 of 10, which is the biggest thing for him. You know, if he's putting up 10 shots, the difference between him shooting 7 of 10 or 2 for 10 is night and day. And like you guys, I know you guys love him and all the Pacers well love him. It's good to see him draw some charges, pick up that energy on the defensive end. So he was impressed, and you know, I'm not a hater of him. I just think he needs to do better to get consistent minutes. And what he did against Washington was fantastic. And I'll refer to Alex with your boy Samson, another 14 and 6.
Jakar.
I told you guys about him, man. I've been on Jakar's train for a long time now.
Very good, and obviously great to see Doug McDermott, maybe the player of the game for us. 19 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, hit 4 threes. So great bench production there. There was a bit of a tense moment in the fourth. I think Bradley Beal cut it to 10 points, but all in all, that was a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah, Washington were definitely unimpressive. I felt like they were pretty angry at the refs at different times as well. They were sort of barking at the refs. Wagner off the bench was very chippy, as was Davis Bertans. They were very mad about proceedings, and we saw a couple of interesting fouls and a couple of near technicals and a little bit of pushing and shoving. So interesting to see, and obviously Domas being back was massive. I mean, 13 points, 7 rebounds, 17 rebounds, 7 assists. His passing was really good. I mean, between him and Brogdon, they had 20 assists alone. So when you've got those two guys leading your team, we've seen this year that they've got been able to develop a really special connection to begin with on the pick and roll, and that's kind of translating to their leadership role, given that our other 2 team captains have been out. I've been really impressed with Domas and Brogdon and their ability to lead the team. What about you guys?
Yeah, that pick and roll looks absolutely deadly, and I think, you know, they're obviously abusing it right now, and I don't blame them at all, to be honest with you. And you talked about Brogdon's 13 assists, and this was a night he struggled. You know, he struggled with his shot a little bit in this season, especially from 3, but it's good to see him get those 13 assists. You know, even when he's struggling from the field, he's still contributing. He's still going to force defenses to worry about him. He was drawing double teams, scoring 12 points. So I think that's the skill of Brogdon. That's how good he actually is. And, you know, we were talking about it before. He's getting the Oladipo treatment now. So he's getting that treatment. He's getting that double teams. And it's opening up options for guys like McDermott and guys like Holiday. So it's good to see.
Any danger of Washington guarding the corner? I mean, like Doug McDermott, shouts to him, 19 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. I feel like all of his 3-pointers are in the corner.
They were wide open as well.
Yeah, TJ Warren hit a couple in the corner. Like, they were not guarding the corners at all, which played right into our hands. And I'd like to see us use that as a weapon a little bit more often, because it was really, really potent against Washington. And obviously we were able to get up around that 30 attempts mark. We were 12 for 30 from 3, which is something that we've sort of spoken about as a theme. We also shot more free throws than Washington. We were 21 of 26 versus 19 for 19 for the Wizards. So good signs there to see us get to the line, shoot threes, and play sort of efficient ball. The third game was had just finished as we started recording this. Finished about an hour ago against Detroit. Alex, you want to cover that game?
Yes, the White Iverson has been unleashed, boys. TJ McConnell, our man. We know, you guys know we love him by now. Obviously, we love Aaron Holiday, but we love McConnell as well. 17 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds off the bench in 22 minutes. I don't remember the last time a Pacers backup had those kind of numbers. I think he was just absolutely unreal. He was the player of the game by far, but it was done by committee in this one. Brogdon struggled, but the Pacers still had 7 guys in double figures. So I think it was really impressive. Domas was Domas. He was good again, almost got a triple-double. Warren contributed. Justin Holiday was fantastic off the bench like always. He's been an absolute stud this season. So it was definitely done by committee in this one. And then I think it was just an all-round impressive win against a team we normally struggle against.
And, we've spoken about a couple of times how particularly, we laugh about Aaron, we laugh about the fact that Alex and I are big fans. Justin's not yet a believer, which is fair enough given his output. But, the last 2 games, he's had a positive plus-minus. He's played good defense. He's been able to get steals. He's been able to convert his attempts. And, even the commentators, even Chris Denari and Quinn Buckner are talking about his confidence level and talking about how, he kind of cycles between being really confident and being a little bit unconfident. Slick was a little bit scathing of him on the call today on the radio call that I was listening to with Mark Boyle, and saying that he lost confidence. He was a little bit more tentative, but he's doing the little things. He's getting steals. He's setting up his teammates. He's rebounding. He's taking care of the ball relative to the number of assists that he's had. So good to see him play well. Domas is just a beast, though. Like you talk about borderline all-stars this season. We were talking about whether the Pacers will have an all-star, and for me, through this, first 9 games, it's Domas Sabonis. He's been unbelievable when he's played. We saw against Brooklyn, he sort of carried us to that first win with really big, strong performances against Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan. He's been able to carry that over. I mean, at the moment, he's averaging 20 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists. He's only getting 4 personal fouls a game, so he's not getting into a lot of foul trouble. 54% from the field, 87% from the line, 42% from 3. So he's incredibly efficient, and he's really carrying us to a lot of these victories. I mean, Brogdon obviously has been doing that as well, but you've said that Brogdon struggled in this game, and Domas has really picked up where Brogdon's left off.
Yeah, I was very happy with the win, and like you mentioned, Alex, TJ McConnell was literally Allen Iverson out there. He was making call-outs. He scored 8 points in a row when Detroit made a run late in the third, early in the fourth. And, it was pretty incredible. He was, crossing people up.
Yeah, he was going ISO on him.
Yeah, going ISO, going M1 mixtape on him. So, it was pretty crazy. I feel like we kind of need a 4th game against Detroit because it feels like we're playing a playoff series against them. We've played that many bloody times. But I'm happy to see them back in Detroit for a few months at least. They're kind of our bogey team. We all know what Andre Drummond does against us. And, what are we, 9 games into the season now, and the Pacers are sitting 6th at 5 wins, 4 losses. And I don't really know what to make of that. I'm happy with that, with all the injuries we've had. We've probably got the most injuries in the entire league, I think, with star power and the amount of starters out. So to sit, 6th with an over 500 record, yes, we haven't played anyone fantastic yet, so it's maybe a little concerning, but I've kind of circled on my calendar the game against Milwaukee next week. That's going to be a real good test.
Huge test.
I think we got Houston as well, but then Milwaukee won, another Central Division rival. That's going to be, all right, where are the Pacers at? We can come up with a big win. I think it's at home. That'll kickstart the season. Or, if we, lose by 10-15, that'll kind of, that's a barometer game.
I think one of the things that I heard JJ and Pat talk about before the season is if you can start 7-3 in the first 10 games, that's sort of the pass mark for this team. And we've got an opportunity to go 6-4. One game out of that sort of record. So if the pass mark was 7-3, and we've had all these injuries, and we have the opportunity to be only 1 game outside of that sort of pass mark, I'd say that we'd take that 10 times out of 10. We've got potentially, a starting lineup's worth of players out against the Wizards. Jeremy Lamb's still not back. Miles Turner's still not back. Victor Oladipo, we're not sure what the timeline is for him. But, we've been injury-riddled the first few weeks of the season. And I'd say that despite having a really slow start that we spoke about, we've come back. And the only game we've lost in the last 6 was the one that we lost in overtime. So, we had a real chance to go 6-0 in the last 6. And I think we've set ourselves up for a good month of November, and we'll talk about the next 2 games in a minute. But we do have a challenging stretch against Houston and Milwaukee coming up, especially flying to Texas and then the next day flying back to Milwaukee to play a road game against the Bucks. So we'll go into, I think, the next 2 games, because I think we'll hope to bring you a show after the OKC game on Tuesday night American time or Wednesday Australia time. First game we've got is at Orlando. Orlando have struggled throughout the season. They're 3-6. They're 12th in the East at the moment. They're averaging one of the worst points totals in the league, and they're terrible from the field. They're shooting 40% from the field as a team. What do you think the key is against a team like Orlando?
Stopping Terrence Ross. Because he is literally Klay Thompson when he plays against the Pacers.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be a massive task. I wish Edmund Sumner was playing, because I think he would be absolutely...
Be perfect.
He would be fantastic on him. But you talked about those injuries. Obviously, they're unfortunate. Hopefully, we can get at least Miles maybe back for that one, hopefully. I think Aaron Gordon's going to be a tough task for Sabonis, but obviously if Turner's not playing, that will be Sampson's job. But they've got a good front court. They've got Vucevic as well, who's an all-star. He can stretch the floor. So, a lot of offensive guys. I know they've struggled early, but I think they'll get better than what they've shown so far.
I feel like this is a really good opportunity for a guy like Justin Holiday to get a lot of minutes against, Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah. Isaac's been dominating.
Isaac's been really good.
Defensive player of the year.
Yeah, he's been very good.
He got, his stat line was like, I don't know, it was like 10 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks, 5 steals.
Something crazy.
It's insane. But, Aaron Gordon seems to sometimes play well against us as well.
It's true. Yeah.
I think, hopefully Miles comes back. I'm hoping we can win that game, though. Like, it'll be, a big road win, and then going into the next game, which we'll preview soon. But fingers crossed we can come out there with a win.
I think the positive we have coming into teams who like to play sort of 2 forwards as opposed to a traditional power forward or a traditional small forward like Orlando and also like Milwaukee with Giannis, is that we've been able to find over the injuries a couple of guys who can guard those positions in Sampson and Justin Holiday. So, we can go to our bench with confidence if Sabonis gets into foul trouble or, if a guy like Aaron Gordon cooks him early, we can go to our bench with a bit of confidence to have guys that can cover them. But overall, I think the challenge is obviously Vucevic. He's obviously their key scorer, and the opportunity for us is a guy like Brogdon can really go to work against the younger Fultz and the Augustine as well. So I think we've got a real opportunity for a Brogdon bounce back game against Orlando. Yeah. The second game we've got coming up is versus OKC at home. Obviously, OKC have changed a lot from last season. We know that they've lost Paul George, they've lost Russell Westbrook. So this team coming into Indy, before the season started, before those trades went down, was probably a bigger deal than it is right now. OKC 3 wins, 5 losses, 11th in the West. So they're not going great, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has probably been their standout. Yeah. He's averaging 22 points a game. So, Justin, where do you see the key being against OKC?
Just be solid. Honestly be solid. That should be a win. Like, we've had such an easy schedule. There's nothing like OKC at home. Like, where they got Chris Paul,
SGA.
Yeah, it should be a win. There's no real key to stopping anyone. I think it's just play. It's all about the Pacers for that. For me, it's the bench contributing, the starters playing their role, no one getting in foul trouble. Hopefully, we've got a bit more of a healthy roster by then. My ideal scenario is we go 2-0.
We're really playing 2 terrible offensive teams because Orlando are a terrible offensive team. They're ranked near last. The offensive rating of the Thunder's 27th. Their defensive rating is 3rd. So, they're obviously solid defensively, but just can't hit many shots. So I think it's an opportunity for us to really clamp down. And a guy like TJ Warren,
He's been very good on that end of the floor, by the way.
He's been great.
Him and Jeremy Lamb have shown a lot of Pacers fans up.
Who question their defense early on, but I think they've been fantastic.
Dan Burke, he's an
Dan
absolute
Burke.
wizard.
Yep.
I don't know how he does it, but every year the Pacers are just incredible defensively. So I think this is actually the perfect matchup. Both these games really suit the Pacers basketball incredibly well. So, it's definitely going to be up to the offense. Guys like Warren's going to have to shoot well, even though he's being guarded by Isaac. Sabonis is going to have to be good again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look for Brogdon to be shooting well in those two.
And OKC hasn't won a game on the road. So, they clearly haven't started to travel well. So this is a really good opportunity for the Pacers to go into that tougher stretch against Houston and Milwaukee, potentially at 7-4.
I'd love that.
That would be fantastic.
7-4, that would probably put us about 4th or 5th in the East with that
all the
0-3 start, with all the injuries, with putting a whole new team together. I think we're very lucky we've had a light schedule.
Yeah.
I was even saying to Alex with the Detroit game that just completed, if that was a good team, we would have lost that match.
100%.
Because Detroit made a run. We were sloppy. We were turning the ball over. I think that's right. I really can't wait till we play some good teams to really see where this team's at. I'm a bit concerned when we play Milwaukee or Philly, but right now I suppose all we can do is hopefully stack up the wins against the poorer teams.
I think the risk with all these injuries too is that Nate doesn't really know who his best 8 or 9 guys are yet. I mean, Sampson's played really well. Goga's had his moments aside from being in foul trouble. Sumner was great before he got injured. Aaron Holiday's had 1 or 2 good games, but aside from that, hasn't been great so far. TJ Leaf had 1 really good game and has struggled throughout. Alizé hasn't really seen the court despite the injuries. So, I think the risk is that we need to get some health aside from Vic so we can understand who the other 8 guys are as we head into later in the season, because they're the guys that are going to have to gel through that January, February, and sort of the dog days of March. So I think the problem with having this injury toll so early is that you lose the chemistry that you otherwise would have been able to build over the course of the season.
That's right, but then I mentioned to Alex before as well, I think this helps come playoff time so much. Our bench always has low production. Having these guys get 30, 35 minutes a game now, they're actually playing with one another and they're playing against NBA starters.
Yeah.
It's going to be so big come playoff time. When Vic's back, you always have that one random game in a playoff series where a bench player goes off, and
Hopefully it's White Iverson.
Hopefully it's White Iverson. Yeah, I think he's adapted that new nickname today. I think that bench production, that was my biggest concern going into this year.
Yeah.
It really was. And seeing the guys, essentially that bench is beating some starters. So, I think it will help come April or May.
Yeah, 100%. I think we've got a real opportunity over the next few days. We'll obviously bring another episode to you following the conclusion of the OKC game, where we can preview the Houston and Milwaukee games. But I think it's obviously going to be a really big week as potentially we get some injured players back. We're obviously a little way off having Sumner and Oladipo back. We're potentially going to get Miles Turner back. Not sure about Goga, how long the concussion's going to keep him out, but I mean, you look at a team like Orlando that's got Bumba off the bench, you're going to need Goga to be able to step in because they're really tall. OKC, not so much. They've just got Adams, which I think would be a really interesting matchup with Domas if Miles isn't back. Really good opportunities there. I'd like to touch on things that are happening around the world of basketball as well. I'd like to get your opinion on the Wiseman situation with Memphis. Obviously, we've heard today that the presumptive number 1 pick or up around the number 1 pick from Memphis has been told that he's ineligible to play. There's been court injunctions. There's been, talk of potentially him joining the NBL Next Stars program. What are your thoughts on this sort of development? And do you think that the NBL should really pounce and get him into Australian basketball sooner rather than later?
1,000% yes. I think, can you imagine if the NBL, this is the NBL we're talking about, not many people know about it, especially in America, but if they were able to get 3 top lottery picks in one season, I think that would be absolutely incredible. Not just for the NBL, but for Australian basketball in general. I think it's really growing here, and this is the best season, I think. I don't know if you guys will agree, but this is one of the best seasons I've ever seen in the NBL.
Yeah.
And the talent is just incredible this year, obviously with LaMelo and RJ.
They've been so impressive too.
Yeah, they've been very good.
They've been getting serious minutes against grown men.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they've both been incredible. So if we got Wiseman as well, that would be huge. I don't really know about the whole situation. We were talking about it a little bit before, but it seems a little bit unlucky for him, I think, because with the Penny Hardaway situation, I believe that he paid for his family to go over to Memphis the year before.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of tampering there, not too sure. But yeah, if he came to the NBL, that would be absolutely huge for us.
Yeah, I think it's a really magnificent opportunity for the NBL to splash some cash, try and get that kid over, and try and capitalise on all the press that he's had. I mean, he's trending number 1 on Twitter earlier today.
Yeah, Sportscenter every night. He's sending highlights.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you saw, I mean, I don't know whether you guys saw his highlights from the first game, but he was a man amongst boys. Like, every single bucket he scored was a emphatic dunk or a finger roll, or, you know, he's got that explosiveness. And I think for a league like the NBL, who's quite guard heavy and also your more traditional big man, if you get a guy running the floor like that and getting highlight dunks left, right and centre, I feel like it's going to take the league to the next level and, you know, potentially get a lot more prime time US time.
Well, yeah, this will be the first time you hear me give LeBron James a compliment, but he's done well voicing how corrupt the NCAA is.
Yeah.
And he's doing it for athletes, you know, coming up, and good on him for, you know, sharing what everyone goes through. Like, as an athlete, it's not fair, these players, you know, putting their bodies on the line. The colleges are getting paid and the players are getting nothing. And then, you know, someone blows their knee and their career could be over and they've essentially got nothing, and they've sold jerseys and tickets with their name on. So, just want to give LeBron a shout out, I suppose, where he has done well.
Probably the last time you ever do that, I'd say, on this podcast. But
yeah, I'd say so.
Look, a lot of our listeners sort of say, hey, it's really cool listening to Australians talk about basketball, and I think it's one of those things where it's something that Aussies can never really understand, the college element and the lack of payment to those college players. Like, you know, it's a different culture in many ways, and it's also very, very similar. But for me, I've never understood the lack of payment that those players get for the amount of time that they put in, the amount of effort. And really, when you're talking about, you know, a $100,000 degree, for the amount that they actually earn for the universities, it's over and above that significantly. So
I think coaches get paid insane amounts.
Millions and millions, yeah. So
it's insane.
If anything will tell you whether the players need to get paid, and, you know, we're not talking that they all need to make millions and millions of dollars. You know, you could pay these players $100,000 each a year, and they could potentially set their families up.
Yeah.
You know, their families could move to where they are. They could, you know, rent their mum and dad a house, and, you know, they could still be on campus. And I'm pretty sure that if you had 15 basketball players earning $100,000 a year and 50, you know, football players earning $100,000 a year, the university's not going to go broke based off that 10 million. Like, you know, other sports are going to clamour for it, but you've got football, basketball, those sports that really bring in the money. And overall, I think it's like anything else. If you're bringing in a lot of cash, then there should be some sort of compensation. And I think if any organisation or any university tried that in Australia, they'd be shouted down extremely quickly. So it's definitely something I've never really been able to understand. But I can respect that people are really strong on the universities, and they're really colloquial when it comes to supporting their university, their alma mater, I think it's called. Last time you'll hear me use that in the podcast either. But I do not understand the lack of payment for these players, given the time and effort that they give. Any other NBA topics you guys would like to discuss? I know we're currently watching the end of a Milwaukee-Utah game with a game winner that did not come off. So we're going to overtime 100 apiece, and Brook Lopez is barking at the referee saying he was fouled. But any other NBA around the NBA stuff you guys would like to reference? Anything caught your eye? Yeah. Luke Kennard turns into an all-star whenever he plays the Pacers.
Yeah, I wish he actually came to the Pacers, because apparently in Bankers Life Fieldhouse he doesn't know how to miss.
Yeah.
That would be great. But also the former soon-to-be Pacer, D'Angelo Russell, popping off against the Timberwolves. I think he had like 52, Wiggins with 40, so that game was definitely fun to watch. I know Pacers fans really wanted D'Angelo, but I think they're pretty sold on Brogdon at this point, so not too upset about that one.
We're about an eighth of the way through the season. Who's your MVP?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest, it sounds silly, but I was going to mention him anyway. Like, Luka Doncic has been that bloody good. We were watching him before. That guy's going to average a triple-double one day, and probably do a triple-double the right way, where Westbrook probably does it a different way. I think Doncic plays a bit more team ball, and his step back is just deadly. For what is he, a second-year player, I mean, you see even LeBron gave him respect after he got a triple-double on him. He's out of this world, that guy, and I can't wait to watch more of him.
Yeah, he's incredible, but I think I have to go with the obvious one. I think I've got to go back-to-back for Giannis. I know in this one he had 0 points, I think, or 2 points in the first half. He had like 20-something in the third quarter alone. So he is just absolutely unreal. I know he's been struggling from the line with his shot, but that does not matter at all. What he does on a nightly basis is just freaky, honestly. I know they call him the Greek freak for a reason, but my God, is he incredible.
I mean, for someone to be able to average over 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists, even through 7-8 games of a season, is just incredible. And I picked him before the season, and I'm sticking with that prediction. I think he's going back to back.
Well, is he the best player in the league, or is Kawhi?
I'm going to go Giannis.
I'm going to go Giannis as well. I think physically dominant. He can do anything. I think Kawhi's shown
load management.
Load management's a problem. I was trying to avoid mentioning that on this podcast. I feel like every other NBA podcast is about load management this week. But Kawhi's shown better passing this season. He's averaging more assists, but unless he can do that across the whole season, I'm not prepared to say that he's a better player than Giannis Antetokounmpo at the moment.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you after the OKC game. Are we all predicting 2-0 against Orlando and the Thunder?
Yeah, I'm going 2-0.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the Orlando game than the OKC one. I've kind of penciled in the OKC one as a win. That Orlando one's probably about 70% win, 30% loss for me. But yeah, fingers crossed we can re-record it 2-0, and then that'll put us at 7-4.
Perfect. We'll see you guys Wednesday on the Paceroos Podcast. Thanks for listening.